Okay, folks, I think now I'll take the opportunity to talk about my training in T-37s at Randolph in 1970. I was very fortunate. I had some great T-37 IPs. First one I'll tell you about was my assigned IP, Russ Sweets. And then I'll give you a little bit of a couple stories on flying with John McBroom, or Boomer as we call him, and see where it goes from there. We got to Tweets in June of 1970. We had flown T-41 over at Stinson for the 6 weeks prior to that, and then we rolled into Tweets, and I was assigned to Russ Sweets. Now, Russ was a plowback. What a plowback was a FAPE before they became FAPEs. The system used to take guys who graduated from recent grads from pilot training and then plow them back into the system for them to become IPs themselves. Well, that became offensive to some, so they thought they ought to change the name plowback, and so they came up with First Assignment IP, FAPE. Well, Russ was a plowback, and boy, did I love flying with that guy. We were both first lieutenants, so we were kind of on an even setting in that vein. And Russ would make flying fun. Just had a ball with him. We had work to do, and we did it. But every now and then, Russ would take the airplane and just do something totally off the wall. You wouldn't see it coming. One day, I was doing something or another, and he said, "Bob, I got the airplane." He took it, pulled it up, and rolled it over into a dive, and pretended like he was shooting a gun or something. And he said, "I thought that was a Chinese communist cloud down there." He pulled off. He said, "Okay, you got the airplane back. Just go ahead and continue flying." And then another time he'd take the stick and he'd start pulsating the stick like this. And so the airplane's going like that. And he started singing. And by the way, he was a terrible singer, but over an oxygen mask, who can tell? So Russ is sitting over there singing, "Oh, the monkey wraps his tail around the flagpole to see his asshole on the other side." And he would laugh. He thought that was the funniest damn thing. And I was sitting over there just kind of looking at him. But he made it fun. When it came time to solo, I was assigned an IP, John McBroom. Now, Boomer was our class commander. And I think at that time, he and I both were first lieutenants also. But he was a year or two further down the road than I was. I think he was a 67 grad out of the academy. So John and I flew together, and I liked John. But John didn't have a great deal of patience with students and student training at times. I think that's a polite way to put it. He could be a screamer. And he could get frustrated in the airplane. I remember one time we're coming back to the base, and I had either done something or not done something that pissed him off, and he got frustrated. He just took his oxygen mask, the clip was over here, just unclipped it, turned and started staring out the side of the window, the side of the canopy. So I thought, well, okay, fine. So I took my mask and dropped it, and I started looking out my side of the canopy, and I thought, Jesus, how stupid is this? Two guys flying along side by side, both of them looking out their side of the canopy. What if we see a bird or something? So I hooked my mask back up and kept flying, let him sit over there and have his hissy fit. At any rate, then there was a day we're coming back, and he got pissed off at something or another, reached up, slammed the windscreen, or not the windscreen, the glare shield, knocked it off the clips. And I said, "Oh crap, you're in trouble now." Boy, he didn't like that either. At any rate, kind of got along. I think I was right on the edge of his nerves. But anyway, came time to solo. And what we'd do when we soloed out, we would go up with an airplane full of fuel, and we would fly 3 patterns, touch and goes. And if those 3 touch and goes were satisfactory, then we'd land to a full stop, taxi over, the IP would get out, secure his seat, and then I'd take off, or the student would take off and fly 3 touch and goes, or 3 landings, 2 of them touch and goes and a full stop to complete the mission. Okay, fine. So we take off, and the first thing he had to do was just kind of drill around the field to burn off fuel, lower our landing weight. So we did that, and then we started getting into the profile. We did a couple touch and goes, and then John noticed we had a fuel imbalance. Well, it was getting worse. So we took the airplane and we landed to a full stop. Then, and like in my case, they gave me a brand new airplane full of gas. Okay, good. And they said, okay, just take this, go up. He said you did well. He said, just go up and fly around for a little bit, get your fuel down to a certain level, and then he said, go ahead and do your 2 touch and goes, and then full stop. Okay, fine. Now, this was on the west side of the field, and on the west side of the field, they had their own control tower on top of a hangar. I had made arrangements for my wife at the time and Mom, who worked at Randolph, to come up in the tower to watch me solo. I thought that'd be kind of slick if they could do that. So they were up in the tower. John gives me the new airplane. We do our thing, and off I go. Now, it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon at that time. It was hot as hell at Randolph that day. So I take off and I come back around. I fly through the pitch out point a couple, 3 times, and finally get the weight down to where I can begin doing my touch and goes. So I come in, and when I came in, I came across the threshold, and I started the flare way too early, probably. Well, the thermals at that time got me and lifted me. You know, I'm coming in and flare, and then it just kind of lift me up a little higher. Well, crap. So I add the power, and off I go around. So I came back around and compensated for that, got one on the ground, came back around, and I had a hell of a time getting the next 2 landings on the ground. I don't know what it was. I don't know if that first landing spooked me or that first pattern spooked me or not, but those thermals about wore me out. So I'm coming in, and later I heard that everybody in the tower at that time started focusing on me because I wasn't getting it down. He said everybody was sitting there watching me. Okay, he's looking good. He's looking, oh, Jesus. And the RSU would send me around, or I'd go around. And long story short, I logged about a 1.1 or 1.2 on that mission, when normally it would only take about 25 minutes or something like that. So anyway, that about wore everybody out. Then I came up to my contact check, and once a little bit further into the program, and I stumbled on that. I'll tell you about that on another video in and of itself. And when I came back to the room after that check ride, I really was down in the dumps. Up until that point, I was just having a ball. Yeah, it was challenging for me at times, but I was kind of making it. And then I flew that check ride, and I failed it. And oh man, in those days, they didn't take prisoners. Once you failed a ride like that, it was almost kind of academic. You had to prove to them then why you deserved to be there. So the pressure really came on you at that time. And I kind of knew it. We all did at that time. So I knuckled down and flew with Russ. And Russ said, Bob, he said, you're going to make it. He says, tell you what, you got 2 review rides here. He pulled out 2 grade sheets, and he said, you're going to get a good on both of them, so don't worry about that. He said, now let's just go out and fly the airplane and have fun. So we got back into that pattern again of having fun on the ride and doing the things we needed to, and flying the area that I was deficient in and getting that cleaned up, and we did. And at that point, Russ, on one of those rides, Russ says, okay, I got the airplane now. So he took the airplane, and he took one of his parachute straps out from that connected one of his leg straps on the parachute. So he takes that out, he puts it around the stick, and he said, now, he says, I'm going to fly a lazy 8 maneuver just with the parachute strap. Okay, well, fine. So he does. He flies a complete lazy 8 maneuver, just maneuvering the parachute strap wrapped around the stick. Anyway, so we did that, and they set me up for the initial progress check. And I'd heard about this guy I was going to fly with. I knew his little gimmicks or his little tricks. So I had been briefed about him. So when I went up, not that they're trying to trick you to fail you, but each one of these check pilots would have something they would employ just to, I don't know what they did it for. But anyway, so I was kind of ready for it. And when he sprung it on me, it was not a problem. And I passed the ride and went on to actually have no other problems for the rest of the Tweet program. A couple other things I'll mention here. It was common or custom for your instructor pilot during this time to invite you over to their house for dinner at some point, usually as you got to the end of the program phase. So a bunch of us went over to Boomer's house, John McBroom's, and he lived on base at the time. And we had dinner, and then after dinner, John didn't drink. So after dinner, the entertainment was listening to Bill Cosby albums. We all listened to probably 3 or 4 Bill Cosby albums. Those were 78s in those days. Listened to those things, and I've never listened to another one since. I've heard them all. At any rate, those about wore me out. So we graduated, moved on to 38s, and then completed the program. I got to McGuire in July 1971, and at some point during that time, I heard that Russ had discovered a melanoma on his back, and then I stayed in touch with him best I could. And then at some point I heard he passed away. From the time they discovered that melanoma until he passed was only about 18 months. And although Russ passed very, very early in my flying career, I will always be grateful for having had the opportunity to have flown with him and picked up that spirit and that love of flying that he had, and he passed on to me. And I tried to take that spirit and pass it on to the students I flew with. Boomer and his screaming and his antics in the airplane, not so much. And certainly not those damn Bill Cosby albums. I wouldn't do that to anybody. Anyway, nice seeing you folks here, and we'll see you again soon on the channel.